Hi, in this lecture we are going to be seeing how we can do association rules mining using pandas and Python. So the input data set for this exercise is going to contain information about 1000 fatal accidents. So we have information about 1000 accidents that have happened and the conditions in which that those accidents have happened, like what is the weather condition, what is the road condition, and how many amount of fatalities were there, what kind of accident was it, and stuff like that. So we are going to use this information and we're going to do association rules mining. And the goal for association rule mining here in this case is frequent pattern mining. In other words, we are trying to find the most frequently occurring patterns in the data set. When we say most frequently occurring patterns in a table data set, we are talking about if column A has value X, column B has value Y most of the time. So there is an association between column A and column B. When column A has a specific value, column B also has a specific value, and we are trying to find these kind of patterns that are hidden within the data set. We can do it manually, but it is going to take a very long time for you to do it. So we're going to do that frequent pattern mining in this case. So what we do here is, first let us go and start loading up a number of these libraries. You have to install this a priori library. The a priori library is the library you might have to download and install using pip. And then we're going to just load the change the directory to the home directory, and then load the accidents data set in this case, and look at how the accident data set looks like. So it's a table. You see that there is an index, and then there are certain variables, features given there, like whether police force was there in the scene of accident, what is the severity of accident, the number of vehicles, the number of casualties, the day of the week, the road type, the speed limit, and you have all this information, and all of them are integer 64. They have all been already kind of coded into some IDs in this case. So you can easily do a describe on them because now all of them are numbers. And then you can also look at how the data looks like. What you would see is, in this case, the data is pretty much, codified. In the case, let's say the number of casualties is in this case 2, whereas we look at like accident severity is codified in like range of 1, 2, 3, something like that. So all of them are kind of codified in this case. So once you have this data, you need to convert it into a basket data. So what is a basket data? Is every row is a transaction, and each transaction has a transaction ID and the various items in the transaction. So how do you convert a regular table data into a transaction data? Let us take a look at this. Now this is your normal CSV file where you have the column headings and the values following here. You're going to convert this into a transaction data set where it is going to look like this, which is you have a transaction ID, and each item in the transaction is nothing but a name value pair. The column name equal to column value, column name equal to column value, column name equal to column value. You got to convert it to this format. This is the transaction format that has a transaction ID and the various items in the transaction. So each one is an item. So if you're doing market basket analysis for the same thing, each item is going to be a food item, like egg or milk or something like that. In this case, we are just doing frequent pattern mining, so we're just going to pick the commonly occurring name value pairs in this case. So how do we generate this file? We have written some custom code here in order to generate this particular file, and that custom code is this, which is basically this guy's job is to walk through each of the rows in the data set and then walk through each of the columns and convert them into the equivalent name value kind of structure and populate this basket string, and that is what it is going to do. And then finally I'm going to just store this basket string in this file basket in this particular file called accident basket. So it's our final output is kind of stored in this accident basket in this format you just saw. So this is how the file is now created and closed. Now we're just going to load that particular accident basket.csv now. Now we're going to start reading that CSV and converting that into a transaction. So you're going to be using the CSV library for this purpose, and for that you're going to be opening this file and reading the contents of the CSV into this variable called urlist. Now this reads your entire file into this urlist, and then you start applying the a priori algorithm. So first thing, you load this data set into the a priori library using this function a priori, which loads the function, and then on that you're going to be calling the generate rules, and you're going to be giving the threshold, the minimum support threshold. You have to look at all rules where the minimum support threshold is greater than 0.6, and that's what we are telling it to do, and this one actually goes and builds the rules. And finally, you can actually print out the rules in this fashion. Pretty simple. So you see that it is printing out the various rules that it actually found. And how do you actually look at the rules is, let us take this particular rule. I just printed out the rules, so there are many rules in there. What it says is, when pedestrian crossing physical facilities equal to 0, when this particular pedestrian crossing physical facilities is equal to 0, then accident severity is 3, 78% of the time. When physical facilities is 0, accident severity is 3, 78% of the time. That is a pattern. Similarly, when you say accident severity is 3, pedestrian crossing physical facilities is 0. That is 85% of the time. So you see various things happening, like when weather condition is 1, physical facilities is 0, that is 87%. So this kind of gives you certain situations in which these accidents are occurring. So let us look at this particular condition, pretty interesting. When weather condition is 1, accident severity is 3, 78% of the time. So one specific weather condition, maybe it's a snowy condition in which the accidents are happening more frequently than other conditions. So that is an insight for you into the data. And what you can do is use this insight to determine, maybe when this weather condition happens, you need to do various few things, like you might want to reduce the speed limits during the time, or you want to put more safeguards during those areas and stuff like that. So what this does is it looks into various columns and rows and comes up with frequently occurring patterns like this, and these patterns can then be used to make some decisions as to how well you can ensure the safety of people on the road. What you just saw is frequent pattern mining. The same thing can then be also used to do market basket analysis, exactly the same condition way, in which case you can find when one item is bought, what other items are bought along with it, and look at what support is with which that particular item is bought. So this is market basket analysis of frequent pattern mining or association rules mining for you. Thank you.